Welcome back to the channel, guys. We are back on the Mercedes again. So we did end up getting it running a lot better with the tune-up and stuff. Off camera, I did replace the over voltage protection relay. That just completely transformed how this thing runs. It starts and drives perfectly. But now that we're driving it a little bit more and it runs so well, we also kind of want to enjoy creature comforts inside of it as well. Just because it's an older car doesn't mean that we can't have something like a stereo that works. I'm not too sure who did it, how they did it, why they did the way that they did it, but it's awful. I think only maybe 1 or 2 speakers work. I did find a bunch of wires for maybe 3 or 4 different stereo installs in here where they've had amplifiers in the back, possibly subwoofers, not sure. But what I do know is none of it really works correctly. So what I did end up doing is getting new dash speakers, new speakers for the partial shelf, and an affordable new stereo that just has the Bluetooth that we're going to need to be able to enjoy some tunes while we're driving. Although I want to jump into the stereo install, got to build some motivation, so we're going to start out by replacing the air filter. Nobody said we had to do anything in order, so we're going to do what we want. Oh, wow. Not too terrible, but not great either. And it looks like somebody might have sprayed something in here and it backfired at one point. Got all these fins all crispy. It actually burnt up right there, look at that. And that's on the engine side too, so that would have been all sucked in. An interesting thing about the way that Mercedes did their air metering on their engines is that instead of having a MAF sensor that measures the airflow past a sensor, they actually use this flap right here that when the engine creates vacuum, it pulls that flap and then it knows how much fuel to add. A lot of people literally think that it's just part of the throttle plate, but it's not. It's a metering device. Once it goes down, it knows how much air is flowing through the engine and how much fuel to add. It's just something kind of interesting that Mercedes did versus everybody else. So I did go with a K&N filter. I'm not going to explain to everybody why or why you're wrong for not liking them. If you guys do want that, leave a comment down below and I'll let you know why you're wrong. Whether for good or bad, on the Mercedes, it's kind of easy to access everything. It's got this little panel back there. Different models have different setups inside of here, different climate control. I'm going to eventually redo all of the wood grain in here anyway, but until then we're just doing little stuff. Now this one is not quite fitted properly, so it comes out pretty easily. And you can tell it's old school, one, because it's still huge, still heavy, and it doesn't have Bluetooth. So whether they got it for free or otherwise, but it's still, this thing is still garbage. It doesn't work well. Look on the back here, they got RCAs for probably a sub at one point that they might have had. There's the antenna, so at least they still have that. And looks like they did do some sort of wiring adapter. We'll have to see about that. We'll have to see if all the wires add up or not. But man, comparing this one to like the new one that I got, pretty old. Considering the new one was only like 40 bucks, I don't know why you would keep this. What the heck did they do here, man?
That looks kind of wild in there.
It does look pretty wild in here. There's like stuff that's disconnected and everything. There's wires that are cut.
Oh wow, look at that. You don't even know what's going on there.
What is this? Some sort of capacitor or something? I don't know how old this stereo install is, but I have not seen that anytime soon. And what is this? Look at this nonsense. Just an exposed wire, and they're like, sure, I'll just wrap it in tape. It'll be fine. Come on, man. It's like something about 100 watt or something like that. I'm not too sure what all of this nonsense is. But I'm gonna have to, what is this, add a wire on there. I'm gonna have to cut all of this out, compare it to a wiring diagram for whatever was in here originally, and then put in a whole new wiring adapter to make this work, because this is just garbage. Whatever this is not even remotely close to correct. So I looked up the wiring diagram online, and the problem is the colors that they kind of describe don't necessarily match what's going on under here for whatever reason. But one way that you guys can actually check roughly if you know which wires are supposed to be speakers is just by taking a battery and touching the terminals on each side. The speaker will make a little buzzing noise, and then you can verify which one that is, and then match it with the correlating wire on the harness for the new stereo.
It's working.
Yep.
Oh.
That's good. The previous owners, they did have a sub in here. Obviously they pulled it out, so they had run RCAs. I don't know what quality they are, but I already ordered something else. We're gonna use one of these under seat subs that we're gonna put under the passenger side. But before I run all of those wires and everything, we're just gonna give it a little test run, make sure that essentially it's gonna work. Essentially what we have planned will work. So we're going to test it with the wires that they already have, and that just means RCAs. We got a power and a remote right there. We'll hook those up, and a ground, and we'll give it a test and see if this thing is even any good. So those wires, as you guys saw, I put the meter to it, they don't go anywhere. I even looked under the hood, and there is no thicker power wire going anywhere. The only one that kind of matches what's back there is this red one, which they had hooked up to the remote wire, so they were getting remote for the amp and subs in the back via this wire and the RCAs. As far as power wise, I don't know where that wire leads back from, so what I'm going to do is just in general rip out everything. This thing has had multiple stereo installs for whatever reason. Even on the driver's side, there's like a separate set of RCAs here, and then some sort of, looks like probably what will be a remote wire there too. So I'm just gonna go in and just rip out everything and start fresh. Looks like there's our power wire that we were looking for. Looks like it goes to the front, but where under the dash, we'll have to rip it out and see where it pops out. So it looks like it's this one, but
I didn't think it was it because it was black, but it looks like they did that sort of nonsense. In what world does that make any sense? And I thought maybe this was a fuse, but this has got to be old fuse. But what is that? Just what is that? So I was unsure when we ordered this if it was gonna actually fit under the seat, and kind of unbolting the front and trying this out in the back, it doesn't look like it will. So we are gonna put it in the back, kind of in that pocket, kind of where they've had it originally. So we will reuse their wiring. We're just gonna fix it so that it's not so trash. It's a little bit smaller. It's still an 8-inch. Lily's Lexus has an 8-inch. The red Lexus has an 8-inch. 800 watts, which is double what both of those cars are. So I'm sure that it'll be fine as far as power wise. If it's not enough, obviously we can just return it. It is from Amazon, and we'll put something bigger in there. So what we'll do is we'll reconnect this properly as a remote. We'll put in a fresh fuse and new connection up above the batteries, and then temporarily I guess we can reuse. I have new ones in general from previous installs when I was a kid, but we'll reuse what they got for now. At the very least, we'll try it, see how it sounds, and then in the future we can just upgrade all the wiring altogether. Before I put the fuse onto the battery, I'm just going to clean this guy up. Thank you. And connect it. This wire is too thin for this thing. This is what you're supposed to use. It's called a ferrule. And I don't have a ferrule. You know what we'll do? This is long. And then tighten it. The only thing we have to do now is make a ground. So we'll do that in here. They made a hole. They probably used self-tappers, but we'll just try to use some really tiny nuts and bolts, and we'll clean that off. No better wire than the OEM wires. This was the ground cable off of that RX, so look at that. Comes in handy again. And what we'll do is I'll leave it kind of long, but I'll make both connections anyway, and that way when I finally figure out where we're going to place that sub, we have plenty of leftover that we can kind of play with.
Good?
Yeah. still good, so just gonna pick a spot. Trash. This satisfaction. Wonder if it fits in nicely in here. There's two loose. It smells a little bit smaller. I need to go get those big pliers and crimp it down.
Mm-hmm.
You see that makes it waterproof right there.
Nice.
With everything connected, now we can give it a shot and see if everything turns on.
It's on.
The light's on, yeah?
Yeah.
So with the help of my little automotive electrical engineers over here, we got it all hooked up. So now we're gonna try something and see how good it sounds. These speakers are for sure trash, but we'll give it a testicle.
Yo, life theories, this nice delivery got me waiting. Banana berries and smooth metallys overdated. The gelato is white cherries. Yeah, I'm more than faded, drifting off in the 5 series. Cool like rollerblading, feel the fresh air. We like next day airing. Still the best pair, like your first set of earrings. Yeah, wait till you get here, it's gonna click like Tom.
Obviously the speakers are horrific, but we'll swap those out really quick. And we'll give it another test run and see how good it sounds.
We the illest tandem, isolation fandom, side by side like Hov and yeah, them guys is stand up, breaking through your sound box at any time of day. Look at what the brand up, now we in the sky.
I ripped the old speakers out because they were rattling so bad that you couldn't even tell what was bass. So I set these in here just temporarily so we can actually test out and make sure that it all works correctly, because the 6x9s that whoever just threw them in like garbage were rattling so bad that you literally couldn't understand whether the bass was actually working or not. The speakers come with speaker grills. Normally there is an OEM grill here, but obviously they tore that out and it's nearly impossible to find good ones, or at least good looking ones. So we're gonna take the ones that come with the speakers, we're gonna hit them with some of this tan that's roughly the same. Realistically, it doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as it looks like it probably came with the car, it's gonna work. So we'll do that on the speaker grills, and while they're drying, we'll actually pull this whole tray out, because when they threw those 6x9s in here, they were so heavy and so lopsided that it actually deformed this partial shelf. So we're gonna rip all this out, reattach the speakers correctly, put those speaker grills in, and call it good, and hopefully it's actually gonna look okay. I put these 4 inches already in here because, like I said, we were trying to test out the stereo to make sure that it actually works. The ones that were in here were so blown that you couldn't tell the difference whether a speaker was working or not, because it would just all rattle. The difference also though is that the original grills seem to have a little bit of deflection, causing them to also rattle. So what I did is I cut out some foam that I had over there, and we're gonna make like a little gasket that sits right in between the speaker and the actual OEM grill, and we'll see if that'll kind of slow down that rattle a little bit. After cutting around the general shape of the speaker, I went in and kind of contoured it to the shape of the dash, plus making sure that it stays off the initial cone. Now we're going to try to put that cover back on, and hopefully that brings down that rattle.
What happens if you drink this stuff?
Oh, you'll die. This is to make the other paint stick better.
Is that black paint?
No, it's clear.
Oh, clear. So it's clear paint?
Let's get this guy a little more away from the crack right there, so that we're not painting our deck.
Because if we paint on this, that would be bad. Will it?
It's literally the same color as the
ladder, huh?
as this.
Oh, the cardboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't really do much on here.
Ethan.
I gotta get this little box out. Plug these. This thing is pretty messed up. Really deformed, just from years of sitting in the sun with those garbage speakers pressing down on them. It needs a really good cleaning. We'll clean it up really quick, and then we're gonna see how we can maybe use the speaker to kind of reform this thing, even though it's pretty messed up for when those 6x9s were sitting in here. So we'll clean it up first, set them in place, see how we can make everything just look a whole lot better.
How does that fit?
Not great, but we're doing a little test fit just to kind of see what our options are. I may end up cutting a little bit from this side just so we can scoot the speaker over a little bit, because I'm guessing because these are 6 inches, I'm guessing what they must have had is just 4 inches in the back, and that would have fit perfectly right in here with the threads that they already have. What sucks is because they had those crap ones in there, everything is just kind of worn out. So it's not like I can easily just come in here and kind of make everything fit where I want it to. But what we can do is kind of something like that, and then go in here and cut it for that ring. And then what I have is I have an extra set of these, and I can use them kind of like a bracket, and I can tighten the two together, and that'll squeeze that cardboard backing together, and it'll secure the speaker. So I think I'll do that. I have 2 extra speaker grills, and what we'll do is we'll take out the grill itself, just use the ring from the underside. We'll put some of those captive nut caps things and go from underneath and kind of sandwich the partial shelf together. Hopefully that'll add kind of like a big bracket and just hold the speakers on there. We'll still use one of the original screw holes, and inside of the parcel shelf itself we'll go straight through it, and then we'll screw to it. Luckily, because the speakers can come out with the parcel shelf, we can put it all as one unit back inside of the car. So I'm going to use the one that they already have here, and then twist this guy around roughly to where it was at, and I'm going to drill holes right there. So I gotta drill a hole there, drill a hole there, and then it's just a hair too short, so I gotta find some longer screws. And I need 8 of them. So here's what I came up with: a bunch of tiny little bolts. They're probably 1/8 of an inch or so with a 3/8 head, and hopefully that'll be enough to clear the little mesh, but it'll secure it together, and they should be plenty long enough that it'll just clamp 2 of these rings together, one from the underside, one for the top, and that should secure it well enough for what we need. So here's the idea, without boring you guys to death about it. Cut the holes just a tiny bit larger so that I can actually fit the speaker in there loosely, and then I use, like I said, the little bracket that holds on the grill. I had one extra one for each one, so what I did is I put it from down at the bottom and pretty much just kind of clamped the parcel board together with some, I think these are like 1/8 of an inch bolts with some nuts on the other side. And the idea is that we'll put the speaker grills right on top. Obviously I already painted some, so we'll put those tan ones on top of there. And then now, as a whole unit, we can slide it up on there and plug it in. And now at least it's nice and solid, and it looks complete and not total trash. And it's still an upgrade comparatively to the OEM, which were, I'm pretty sure, just 4 inches. These are a nice 6. So we already tested them. They sound great. Just got to slide it in there. That should be good, just a couple. And now for the piece de resistance. grill themselves.